Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son sit down and talk about fantasy books. I'm the son in that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. And welcome once again. Glad to have you here with us today.
It's great to be back.
We have a great episode ahead of us here today.
I hope so.
Our last recording session was a pretty big one.
Yeah, it went longer than we expected, and then we had to kind of do a little rollover to a mini-sode, if you will.
We've coined that. Mini-sode, I think. Trademark.
Well, I'd like to trademark it. Someone else probably already did.
Well, not that I've seen yet. But we'll claim it now. Anyways, 5 chapters. We could only get 4 done. So yeah, then we did the mini-sode.
So we're being smarter this time and doing 6 chapters.
Absolutely. And I'm confident we will make it. We can do it.
So, not waste too much time, but how you doing, Dad?
I am doing great as I'm sitting here with my drink of the day.
Which is?
A Long Island iced tea.
A classic, especially for you.
Yep, it is my go-to cocktail of choice. I will put a picture on Instagram again and my recipe, because this is one that people make different ways.
Do they? I thought it was partially just different amounts, how much you wanted to drink.
No, they do make it with different ways. I use 5 different liquors: vodka, gin, rum, tequila, and triple sec.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody uses 5. Some use 4. Some use different ones in there. And of course, then everybody's got the sweet and sour mix.
So what makes it iconic as a Long Island iced tea if there are multiple different ways to make it?
I don't know. It has the same general taste. I don't know. Probably that it has a bunch of very light.
At least in color?
Yeah, light. Yeah, not in content of alcohol. It's a fairly clear drink. Doesn't have any of those blue curacao or green Midoris thrown in there. And then the sour mix and a dash of Coke. So it ends up looking like an iced tea.
You came here for fantasy, but I came here to learn about booze.
So that's what I'm drinking. Other than that, I'm doing great. It's been a normal week for me. Well, no, not exactly. I took a couple days off because I had a birthday. Got a little older.
You got old.
I did. And I'm waiting for my last couple of presents.
Sorry.
Both my kids ordered me really cool things, and the items didn't arrive in time. You know, there's been some shipping slowdowns around the country these days. Something about a pandemic. And
I promise, I tried. It was supposed to be here 2 days before your birthday, and it's now, 2 days after your birthday, and
my daughter got me an embroidered hat with our logo of our podcast, which is awesome. It's the first basic merch that will exist, because we haven't put anything together yet. We will eventually, I'm sure, but I'm going to have my own, which is cool. And then Zach got me, well, go ahead and tell him.
Well, I got him a sword. I got him a needle from Game of Thrones.
Full size.
It should be here, and you'll probably get a picture of
It'll
that
definitely
as well.
be on our Instagram, for sure. How about you, Zach? How have you been? And what are you drinking?
I'm just drinking a simple whiskey and Sprite. No need to make it complicated for me today. But I've been good, hanging out, working, enjoying the weather a little bit. I recently started more Dungeons and Dragons in my life, where now instead of only being a DM, which I have been for 2 years-ish now, I also will get to be a player. So that's been fun.
Great. Can't have too much D&D as long as you don't run out of time.
True.
Because you do have to sleep.
Sometimes.
Before we jump into the chapters, I want to share a bit of news about future episodes, something we've put together here now. We only have 2 more after this of the Eye of the World episodes. And then, of course, we'll be moving into Book 2, The Great Hunt, because, there's more books in the Wheel of Time. However, we've gotten a good deal of positive feedback on our midweek specials.
Yeah, they're fun, and it really goes into a lot of the different aspects that we love about fantasy fiction instead of just a singular series.
That's right. And while we love digging into Wheel of Time like we love all fantasy fiction, and the midweek specials give us that chance to channel our geekness in other areas too. So we've decided to increase the frequency of our midweek specials. Really kind of thinking every other week there'll be one of those rolling out. That means our next actual episode after this one will be a midweek special again.
Woo!
I actually threw it out to Twitter to invite our fans to help us decide a little bit about the topic. Because what we're going with for our midweek specials is that sometimes we'll have series or particular themes that we can do again and again. And one of those is to kind of dive deep into magic systems.
As best we can, explore, explain, and then rate them.
From the various different series that we love and enjoy. And we were looking for, what one should we do first? We'll do a whole bunch, but what should be first? And, not surprisingly, the Wheel of Time won, because I think most of our fans have found us because we're covering the Wheel of Time right now.
So we'll do that one first.
Yes, but it'll set the table for how we rate magic systems, how we talk about them. We'll do Wheel of Time, and then future episodes will cover other ones in the coming months. So watch for that episode. If you're following along with us live, that'll drop on Wednesday next. It'll be great. And of course, if you're just binging, it's just the next one that pops up in your queue. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the increasing range of our listener base.
Is it still increasing?
Yeah, we haven't talked about this for a while. The Norwegians, apparently we're still dead to them. They no longer know we are here.
It happens.
But their neighbors, the Swedes, Sweden is gaining popularity.
I don't know, maybe they're all just using a VPN to appear from a different place.
That could be. But we've got a bunch of other new countries where listeners have popped up, where downloads are happening, that include Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Italy, Ghana, and even Mongolia.
Wow.
Yeah. So the majority of our listeners still appear to be in the United States. Again, thanks to VPNs. We have no idea for sure. But we love that we're getting more and more international. And surely not all of those downloads are bots. Although I've gotten some interesting spam on our fantasyfortheages@gmail.com account.
Have we?
Yeah, apparently if we want to accept a donation of a few $1 million and build some charities and orphanages, there's a lady ready to send us money.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
And she sent
suspicious.
She sent the same email in English and French.
Oh, in case we speak French.
Well, we do have a lot of French listeners. Or bots.
Or both.
I think that's enough for now. Let's get on to more great content that all these people have really come for.
Let's do it. Let's get into Wheel of Time, The Eye of the World, starting with chapter 42.
Remembrance of Dreams is the title.
What a title.
The chapter begins with Rand and the gang leaving Moraine to help Matt with his dagger issues.
If you remember last time, there was a whole kerfuffle. Matt tried to stab, and Moraine basically said, "Get out, let me work."
Yep. Everyone's feeling pretty glum. They're worried about Matt. They're also concerned about the imminent Trolloc attack on the city of Camelin. Rand leads them back downstairs to the library, and we get a great moment where he just walks into the library and then realizes they haven't followed him. They're all standing at the door, dumbstruck.
Oh, right. Loyal.
They're all seeing this big Ogier. Rand hadn't mentioned anything about Loyal yet. And you remember Rand's first response when he saw Loyal.
It's a Trolloc!
Yeah, so none of them try to attack.
No.
But he does have to do some introductions and explain, this is my friend Loyal. He's an Ogier. And
he's one of the good ones.
Yeah, it doesn't take them long, though, to warm up, and then the questions start pouring out. And Loyal's loving this. He loves to talk.
And he also does love to listen. We hear him talk a lot, but he does listen with his big ears.
But at this point, they're just pumping him for information.
Yeah.
And sure, he'll go on and on with all the things he knows. Perrin's first one to jump in there. He wants to know more about steadings. And we recall, of course, he and Egwene had an experience with steadings. Yeah. Rand is humored to notice again that Loyal's perspective on time being different than how people look at it shows up.
Little funky. Loyal mentions being on the steading not all that long, and I do believe we learned here it's been 3 years.
Yeah, just a short time.
That's not that short of a time. At my 21, 3 years ago was a while ago.
But as we recall, Loyal in Ogier years is more like a teenager. 3 years ago was probably just a few months in that perspective.
If even.
The questions keep going on all sorts of things until Matt comes walking into the room.
Oh, hey!
Followed by Moraine and Lan. He's looking a little better now, isn't he?
Yeah, at least not trying to actively insult and hurt everybody.
He does look a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember everything about how he was acting and what he'd done, but he knows things weren't right. He's got some memory gaps now. He says, after Whitebridge, things kind of really get spotty, and I don't even remember getting here to Camelin.
He clearly remembers bits and pieces enough to know that he did things he's not proud of or said things to his friends he's not proud of.
Yeah.
But he may not be fully aware of
and
what.
He's like, when I was like temporarily crazy, y'all can't blame me for that, can ya? And they're all like, it's all good. Everyone's happy to have him back.
Sweet.
Moraine did want to solve his issues completely, but she couldn't.
It was too much, too strong, had too big of a hold on him.
Well, he'd had that dagger just way too long. Remember, She was
Exactly.
surprised it hadn't killed him already. She confirms to Rand that actually he still has the dagger. He's got it on him.
And, he gets to keep it now forever or die.
She doesn't say that. He doesn't have to keep it forever, but he does have to keep it until they can get to Tarvalin.
Yeah.
Or perhaps Tarvalon.
Nope, you said it right the first time.
And get more permanent help. She isn't strong enough by herself.
No, she put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, she's encased the poison of the dagger, so it's not hurting Matt anymore. It's not a harm to others at the moment. But he does need to keep it with him until they can get the more permanent remedy. Moraine and Loyal make introductions with each other.
It's much better than Rand's introduction.
Yeah, she apparently is familiar with Ogier.
Yeah, and Loyal is clearly familiar with Aes Sedai.
Yes. And she asks Loyal to excuse them. They need to make plans about their upcoming travel. And Loyal looks rather confused about this, so Rand steps in and explains he's promised Loyal can come along.
Taviran.
Yeah, Moraine simply responds, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills.
Which is really more her just slang for, fine.
If we must, all right. So Moraine starts to discuss what they'll need to do. And in doing that, she shares that while she has hidden them from the Dark One's rats, his eyes in the city, the wards that she used to keep the rats away now, which of course she was doing as a favor to Basil Gill, it actually was something to, get the Dark One to not be able to keep an eye on them. But she's done it in a way the Dark One wouldn't notice. If she was to use more powerful wards, like to even keep Dark Friends away, that would draw everyone's attention that she's doing something like that. So she can't do that.
Which means that they aren't actually safe. They're safe from some spies, but Dark Friends, Trollocs, Myrddraal, any of these things could just walk right in.
And, of course, there's White Cloaks around, too.
Which is an entire other side of the coin, but just as dangerous.
Yeah, the White Cloaks, of course, are looking for Perrin and Egwene. That's mentioned by Moraine now. Rand is like, what? I thought they were looking for me. She's like, why do you think they were looking for you?
Well, they came in the inn, and, yeah.
So they have this conversation of catching up with, okay, so why are they looking for Perrin and Egwene? So Perrin and Egwene share their adventure with the Tinkers and the White Cloaks. And
Perrin leaves a few things out if he can.
And Rand tells about why he thinks people could be looking for him, which involves his experience in the palace gardens, meeting Queen Morghese, and
and
Elida
talking about
Sedai,
meeting Elaine. That totally goes over well. Egwene's not necessarily happy about hearing Rand go on and on about this other pretty girl.
Yeah, they have some fun talking about that a little later. Because then also Perrin mentions something about Aram, a tinker that she was dancing with. Yeah, they go back and forth on this stuff.
They both have incredible double standards, and it's great.
All of these adventures are pretty amazing. As they've been telling about the various things that happened to them, it triggers a memory from Loyal, who points out a man who came to his steading about 20 years ago, and he wants to share this with Moraine to see if maybe she knows what this was about. This man came to the steading nearly dead, and they took him in, kind of nursed him back to health, and actually he seemed to recover pretty quickly. But he left the steading, heading for the White Tower, because he had something he needed to tell them.
It was a message.
It was a message. The Dark One intended to blind the eye of the world, slay the Great Serpent, and kill time itself. What would that mean, Moraine?
And, well, this isn't the first time that we, as readers, have heard something kind of like this. So Perrin and Egwene kind of speak up with a similar tale that they heard from the Tinker about this Aiel maiden of the spear dying, and that was on her last breath, and they didn't think anything of it at the time. It was weird, but, I mean, it's also a thing.
And Perrin Matt, Rand all kind of look at each other and kind of say, maybe we should share about our dreams finally. So they tell Moraine that they've been having these dreams with Balsamon, talking about the Eye of the World and that it wouldn't serve them. And okay, all these pieces come together through this, and the crux of the conversation is Moraine is like, guys,
you boys are stupid.
Why didn't you tell me about these dreams? I told you to tell me if you had any dreams.
I legitimately was sitting here going, I will protect you, but you gotta talk to me.
But, again, the wheel weaves. But she does say, every time the Dark One has touched your dreams, it makes it easier for him to touch your dreams. But now that we're together again, stay close to me, it will give you some protection. But all of these different messages, the dreams, the other things we've now heard about the Eye of the World, she's like, this is not coincidence.
No. Either it's fate or a trap, but either way, we're going to it.
Well, and fate's not the right word. She uses, it's the pattern.
Which
the pattern is
synonymous.
tugging them. That's what fate is in the Wheel of Time. So this is the pattern, acting upon all of them, trying to change their course. They were planning to go on to Tar Valon. Instead, that's going to have to wait. They need to respond to this tugging. They've got to get to the Eye of the World. And they need to do it quickly so they can warn the Green Man of the danger.
Do we here find a description of what this Green Man is, or is that not till later?
Not here. But they all know something of the Green Man.
So whether it's a myth or a story or something.
Yeah, they all know tales. They don't believe it's a myth. They all kind of believe the tales. There's something about a Green Man. But we will save talking about the Green Man until later.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that this is something that is known to all of them. Now, if they have to go find the Green Man, warn him the Eye of the World is in danger, that means they got to go to the Blight.
Not a good place.
And going to the Blight will take weeks and weeks of travel, but this sounds like the danger is imminent. And of course, there's Trollocs in the way, so they've got to find a way to solve that problem. They got to get to the Blight ASAP. Moraine turns to Loyal and says, will you lead us through the ways to the Blight? And he's like, as much as an ogre can be, no!
An ogre?
An ogier.
Just, we don't want to be rude to them.
Yeah, it just slipped out. Basically, he says, no, if we enter the ways, we will all die. Or be swallowed by the shadow. Yeah. He wants nothing to do with that.
If you have a death sentence or something worse, we can go, but I don't want to, so no.
Now, this is the first we've heard of the ways. Chapter 43 is called Decisions and Apparitions. And the beginning of the chapter is all talking about the ways.
So we're going to learn some stuff here.
Yes. And Moraine, of course, trying to convince Loyal to lead the party through the ways, even though that's the last thing he wants to do.
So let's try to quickly kind of run through what do we learn, what's the ways, all of the above.
That's right. If you could see my notes, you'd see basically I got a bunch of bullet points. We're going to just pile through this. What are the ways? What do we know?
Number one, the ways are a method of travel. You can go very far, very fast. It's a nice little shortcut through space.
They were created early in the Third Age, shortly after the Breaking the World, by male Aes Sedai when they still existed. And they were specifically made as a thank you to the Ogier. Now, the reason they were thanking them is when the men were struggling because Saidin had been tainted by the Dark One, some of them, to avoid going mad, went into steadings and became guests of the Ogier. Because in the steading, you cannot sense the true source. You can't touch the one power at all.
And therefore, you also cannot reach the taint on the male part of it.
That's right. So they were protected as long as they stayed in the steading.
However, eventually all of these male Aes Sedai did eventually leave, did eventually go mad, did eventually continue breaking. This led to a couple of things, including the breaking of the world going on longer, over a longer period of time, and nowadays, there's a bit of dissent as to whether this was a good thing to spread out the destruction or a bad thing for prolonging it in general.
Right. If all the men had gone mad quickly, it would have been over faster, but the destruction might have been far more cataclysmic.
And we do hear, for at least for Moraine's part, she's part of the camp of thinking the Ogier did something good.
Before the last men left the steadings, they left this gift. They created the ways. They used the one power to do it, which means they used the tainted one power.
Therefore, the ways themselves are kind of tainted.
Yep, and that's coming up in these notes for sure. But let's be clear, they made the ways not in steadings.
No.
Because you can't touch the one power. You can't use the one power in the steadings. You can't touch the true source.
Instead, they made gates known as way gates that are nearby
Right,
steadings.
they had to leave the steadings to do the work on the ways. You said way gates. There are two basic pieces
Yes.
to the ways. There's the ways themselves, which are something that are not in our world. It's a way you leave our world and travel along the ways and then re-enter our world somewhere else. And the way you get in and out is the other thing you said, way gates. They created way gates for the Ogier to get into these ways that they had grown. There's some, in some way, kind
Some
of organic,
living capacity to this.
And then when they left, they gave the Ogier elders a key so they could grow more way gates.
Therefore, the ways themselves constructed, but the way gates, the accesses to them, could be grown in other places.
Wherever the Ogier found new steadings, because this was the breaking of the world, they'd just been finding their steadings, and they were still searching for more.
Or anytime they were building new cities for others and established groves.
Any of these places that the Ogier were going to be hanging out now, they would grow another way gate, another access to the ways. This was great then, because when they'd travel between steadings or travel to these places that they were using their stonemason skills, they didn't have to travel through the world and all the potential dangers that might be out there. They took the shortcut every time.
And as we build into the idea of Ogier and the longing, these that weren't steading to steading, but rather to grove, it offered an option to return easier, faster, and without any hassle.
Because these were all made using the one power, they're not just normal construction things. So these way gates are nearly indestructible. And that's important because some of them are in places now where the groves were gone, but there'll still be a way gate somewhere. And that's going to come up real important in just a moment.
Now, in today's day and age, these way gates aren't really used. And there's one very specific reason, because something went wrong.
Yeah, originally the ways were a beautiful place. Bright, cheerful.
Apparently
grass
green.
and fruit trees and stuff grew in them. You had food along the way as you journey, because it wasn't teleportation. You still travel in the ways.
It just was much shorter.
Much shorter. A distance that might have taken you weeks, you could reach in just a few days. But you would, depending on the distance, sometimes have to hang out a few days in the ways. But it was a very pleasant journey.
Over time, darkness fell over it, everything died, and even the physical structures began to crumble.
And worst of all, Makin Shin appeared.
Say that again?
I say Makin Shin. What do you say?
Mashin Shin.
Why don't you look up the pronunciation?
I'm going to.
Use that glossary. So we
bet
get
I'm
it right
right.
for them. I looked up a bunch of pronunciations today before podcast. I forgot to look this one up. I've always said Makin Shin. It's Old Tongue for the black wind. This black wind developed as things deteriorated into blackness in the ways. And it would show up, and it caught some people. It caught some Ogier. If it caught them, they went mad. Ogier who came out of the ways, having been captured and experienced black wind, were now hopelessly insane. Nothing that could be healed. And with that extra danger added to how things had deteriorated, the Ogier decided the risk was no longer worth the reward, and they closed the ways. It is no longer allowed for people to travel the ways.
I'm getting real frustrated at my inability to find things in this glossary.
Makin Shin is not there.
Mashin Shin is not.
Maybe
Not
our
in this one,
fans
at
will tell
least.
us what they want. Makin Shin, Makin Shin.
Just sounds gross when you say it that way. Sounds like you're like trying to say it in German, and it's not.
Well, let's move on. Moraine is asking Loyal to violate the rules of the Ogier elders by taking them into the ways, as well as potentially risking their lives because of the black wind.
Yeah, that's not a great idea.
Yeah, the Emmonsfield folk agree with you. This doesn't sound smart at all. But she convinces them it's worth the risk, because it'll get them past the Trollocs and probably Fades that are surrounding Camelin.
And the
but
White
it'll also
Cloaks.
get, and the White Cloaks, and it will get them to the Eye of the World very fast. Not after weeks, just a few days.
And as far as we know, the Dark One has had at least 20 years to be planning to do this, considering that's the oldest account that we heard of a message being told for this problem. They need to be there yesterday.
ASAP. Really, she's saying the ways are our only option. She tries to reassure them, and I love this, by noting how the pattern has brought them this knowledge, and therefore the pattern is providing an answer too by giving them Loyal, who can use the ways. So in essence, they should feel okay with this. They are protected.
She basically, without breaking the fourth wall, tries to say, hey, we have plot armor.
That's right. Taviran plot armor. You want to discuss that at all, Zach?
It's going to be very common. It's going to happen. It's a very clever thing that Robert Jordan does to give an in-world excuse for him to have his characters survive ridiculous odds or unlikely circumstances. But at the same time, people who put too much stake in it are often mistaken.
Yeah. She's saying you have a destiny. You have a purpose. The pattern has brought this together. You're not going to fail, okay? We should be able to boldly go through the ways and trust it's going to work out.
Notice she never tells them no one's going to get hurt, no one's not going to suffer. These things are totally possible. You could succeed but lose all your limbs horribly. Details, Maureen.
I just found that when she mentions it this way, it was rather meta. She's basically saying, yes, you have plot armor. Nothing to worry about. Let's go. In the end, Moraine states that the choice to proceed is actually, though, up to them individually. They need to decide, will they go with her? She needs to go to the Eye of the World. Will they come with to the Blight to find the Green Man? And they do. Every last one of them, even down to Loyal, commit. Okay,
well, I think Loyal is almost more like, yeah, he doesn't want the ways, but he's more willing to commit than some.
As this all works its way out, there's a side conversation I want to point out that reveals a key character trait of Rand. And it's going to come up again and again and again.
It's kind of annoying, actually.
He pulls, well, I don't know, endearing perhaps too, but it's a product of his raising. He pulls Egwene aside, tries to convince her not to come along and to take Nynaeve and just either go on to Tar Valon as they were planning or go back home. But there's no need for them to put themselves in danger like this. He's trying to protect the womenfolk.
Which is great and kind and whatever, but it's also kind of insulting that he doesn't think that they're necessarily up for it.
Again, product of his raising. He expects her to be irritated that he's trying to shelter her and tell her what to do. Instead, she's like, oh, that's so sweet, Rand. But no, Moraine has shared already with us that Min, back in Berlon, she had a viewing where Nynaeve and I were all part of this. We need to continue on together. And then she gives Rand a little bit of a what for not telling her about Min, because
and
she
specifically
thought he
Min's
was
viewings.
Yeah, well, and no, just Min as a whole.
She had seen them talking together.
Right, and she kind of thought he was flirting a little bit with her.
Yeah, not understanding that she had an ability and there was a conversation going in that way.
Right, so she was a little jealous, and he could have cleared all this up. Why didn't he? He should have told her. And then she pops up with, who's Elaine? Now, you mentioned it earlier. She had asked earlier in the conversations, and it got no response at all. The conversation just moved past it, but she brings up it again. So who's Elaine? Because
like
he's
to think
mentioned
she
the
goes,
story, and he ran into Elaine and Gawain, but he didn't say who they were.
Yeah, she basically, she walks in and goes, hey, yeah, you're fine. You weren't flirting. I totally understand. It's great. Who's Elaine? And he just turns red.
He answers. He says, well, she's the daughter heir to the throne of Andor. And she gets so ticked because she doesn't think he's telling the truth.
He's got to be lying.
Seriously? You met the daughter heir? Come on.
You? No.
And Rand is left going, I wish I was more like Perrin, understanding how to talk to women. I don't get them. That's a recurring theme in the book.
Always.
The boys always think the other boys know better how to talk with women.
Surprise, none of them do.
No, not really. The work begins then to gather supplies for their journey.
Yep.
They need to prep for this. They need to stay out of sight, so they actually enlist Master Gil to go and have supplies gathered from beyond what they have in the inn.
And good guy Gil does a good job.
And he's happy to, because he tells them, yeah, there's white cloaks out there watching the inn from both directions, so there's no way you'd be getting out there to get stuff.
And I don't want them causing any trouble. I don't like them either.
Once they've gathered what they can, then, okay, we all need to get a little bit of sleep, because because we're going to be leaving before dawn. Let's get what sleep we can.
And cue dreams.
Yeah, as soon as Rand drifts off, bam, he's in that same old Baalzamon dream again. He's in that castle or fortress, whatever, the place where the sky's all funky and stuff. He's in that same room with the fireplace, the table.
The figures.
Yeah, this is the new thing. There's 3 small figures on the table, kind of clay. There's no real clear face on them, but there is something unique about each of them. What is there?
One has a wolf standing beside it, another holds a tiny dagger, and the last, a heron-marked sword.
I love the tiny dagger. It even has a little red dot at the end.
That little ruby dagger. It's like the ruby slippers, but for a dagger.
Rand looks in the mirror that's in the room, and as in other dreams, his face is blurred, but he thinks it looks a little clearer than it was. What do you think this is indicating?
It seems to be indicating a increased vision, knowledge, in that there's an anonymity when you blur out a face. And whether it's Rand not being sure of himself or this being a dream of the Dark One, as it's been suspected, the Dark One being unsure of who he is.
Mm-hmm. Baalzamon has brought them to this dream repeatedly. And each time, in sharing notes, they've learned that
they have the same dream.
Rand, Matt, Perrin, they all have the same dream. But this is a little different now. There's 3 different shapes on the table. Baalzamon is in some way figuring out more about them and narrowing in on just who they are. We learn a few things from Baalzamon because, ta-da, there he is in the room again. He says some statements, and we get that he's saying they have faced each other in this challenge many times over the ages. Each time Rand's face is different, he doesn't say Rand, but he says each time your face is different, and your name, but it's still you. What do you think that means, Zach?
How spoilery can I be?
Not too spoilery.
The wheel of time turns and turns again, and an age that has come will come again, and an age that is yet to pass. And
wow, maybe a little more spoilery than that.
The same events will continue to occur. The same fight will happen, and has happened 1,000 times.
That's what Baalzamon thinks.
But the details are a little different every time.
He says that Rand always denies him at first, but in the end, he either kneels to him
or he dies,
wishing he had kneeled to him. And that this is a struggle that's gone on since creation. That's what he's saying.
However long ago that was. 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah. A big reveal is he says, Aes Sedai. There are Aes Sedai that already serve him. So you should too. I already have Aes Sedai on my side.
There are bad ones.
He's like, what?
What? We did get a slight reference to that at some other time through Elias. With the mention
that
of calling sisters black.
Black Aja. Yes, those would be ones that serve the dark.
However, this seems to claim that's true.
You know, that's very on the nose. They serve the dark, so they're black Aja. I mean, they could be any color they wanted, but we'll be black.
Yeah.
So dark.
It's not great.
He also here specifically claims responsibility for sending the Trollocs out 2,000 years ago that caused the Trolloc Wars. He said he did that. And at that time, some Aes Sedai despaired and turned to him, and ever since, the Black Aja has served him hidden amongst the Aes Sedai.
I've had evil servants in that place of safety you think you're going for 2,000 years.
Yeah. This is an information dump. It's significant. We're giving you a foreshadowing alert. These are things that will come up again. You heard it first here.
Maybe.
Rand is finally able to escape the dream, and partly he does that by sweeping the 3 clay figures off the table and stomping them underfoot, but when he does that, he feels pain in his hand. He wakes up then, and he finds a sliver in his hand, kind of like the sword from his figurine, but when he pulls the sliver out, it disappears. Ooh, freaky. Now awake, he sees Matt thrashing in a dream, repeating, deny you, deny you, deny you. He's clearly having the same dream. He wakes Matt up, and they're like, yep, Baalzamon is back. And Rand deduces he knows who the 3 of them are, but he's not sure which one is the actual one he's looking for.
At least not here and now.
As they shake the dream off, Moraine knocks on the door, pokes her head in. She does that typical thing, knock, knock, open the door.
Yeah, it's not cool. Wait for a response. Come on.
I mean, I go up to your room, I knock on the door, I wait for you to say something.
Yeah, at least go like, uh-huh.
Sometimes you have headphones on, you can't hear me.
So you knock louder.
I do.
Great.
What's really sad is when we're in the same house and I text you.
I mean, sometimes you just don't want to walk upstairs, you know?
Anyway, she says, it's time to go. Get dressed. Let's go. And Matt's like, I've only been asleep an hour. She's like, it's been 4. Rand and Matt look at each other very confused. Like, they just had this dream, and it really wasn't 4 hours.
Time is weird.
And Moraine can see something's wrong. So she's like, tell me what's up.
And they actually do.
They do. They tell about the dream. Moraine's takeaway from it is, time grows very short. We gotta go.
And so we move on into chapter 44.
The dark along the ways. The company quietly slips away from the inn with the help of Master Gil, each on a horse. Egwene is back on Bella.
Yay!
A huge horse has been found for Loyal.
And
one
the
that
horse
normally
still-
would like pull a lot of weight or something.
Horse still isn't really happy about it, though.
No. Loyal isn't either. He's like, my feet have always been good enough for me, but nope, we all need a horse. This massive horse looks like a pony with Loyal on it.
Yeah.
Remember, almost 10 feet tall.
And so they go out a back secret exit.
That's right. The stable wall looks like a solid wall, but oh, look, trick door. Because again, white cloaks out in the front watching the streets, so they get to use the back alleyway. As Gil lets them go, Moraine thanks him and says, if you have any trouble because we were here, send message to the White Tower, to Shiriam Sadai.
Of the Blue Aja.
And Moraine, of course, is also Blue Aja. She will help. They're off.
Since it's been mentioned now, remember the name Shiriam.
Yep.
She'll be back.
Yep. This is not a foreshadowing alert. This is just, she's not just a name.
No.
You'll get to know this character down the road. As quietly as possible, they're moving through the streets of Camelin, trying not to attract attention. It's still
Fairly
dark.
successfully.
It's about an hour before dawn. And Loyal is taking the lead because as an Ogier, he can sense where the Waygate is.
Because apparently that's something they can do.
Now remember, the Waygate would have been in the Grove, but the Grove is gone here.
It's
in
been
Camelin.
built over.
Totally. So he can still sense the Waygate, which is nearly indestructible, so it's here somewhere. They travel through the city, and it's slowly starting to get lighter. They don't see anybody yet, but as they keep going, they start to see people here and there starting to open up shops and get moving.
Ultimately, they get to a shop, and Loyal says, look, it's down there. It's underneath the shop.
Yep, under the shop.
And they decide, breaking and entering is not so bad of a thing when it's necessary.
And there's
so
a little urgency. I mean, the sun is almost up now.
They find a cellar door. Moraine breaks it open with the one power, and, they go in.
Yeah, it was preferable she used the power, because Loyal is like, I could break this off, but it's going to make some noise. No, I got this. Zzz. Okay. And then she creates a glowing ball and heads on down into the cellar with that light. She says, rest of you, light your lanterns and follow me. They all do. People and horses, they all squeeze down into the cellar. Lan is the last one in. He closes the door behind them. Loyal is, I wrote in my notes, upset, but no, he's ticked. He's ticked, because here's the Waygate. What used to be in this beautiful grove of great trees and all is forgotten in a dingy basement.
Yeah, it's cemented over, more or less, and that's
it's not
cool.
cemented over.
Not over, but integrated
the building,
in with it.
Yes, the building has been built right on top of it. So you've got 4 walls in the cellar. One of them is the Waygate.
Yeah, and it's not the Waygate is like in the cellar, it's sticking out through the ground. No. They literally went, this is a really good, sturdy piece of construction. We're just going to build our wall in and around this.
I mean, I've seen this done, where, there's a gas station not too far away that burned down. But there was a cinder block wall along the back and sides that was still there. Now they're building a new gas station there. They've built it around the frame of that wall that survived.
Using the existing foundation.
That's right. This is not uncommon. So this is what they did with the Waygate, though. They treated it just like, oh, here's a convenient wall. And they built everything around it.
However, notably, this Waygate, it's really pretty.
Oh, I mean, the other walls are just brick and mortar. This thing is a piece of art.
It's basically full filigree and everything.
Yeah, vines and leaves, and it almost looks alive. Most of the wall is amazing, but then in the center, it goes up a whole nother level. It literally almost looks like the wind is blowing and they're rippling. I mean, they're not, but it's just gorgeous.
Well,
and this is why Loyal is so upset. This should not be like this.
Moraine calms him down enough, knowing what's done is done.
She goes to that centerpiece, and she reaches out and touches a trefoil leaf, a specific kind of leaf.
It's a tree star.
Yes.
For all my Land Before Time fans out there,
It's a tree star.
I got you.
And it's specific to what the leaf looks like from Avendosora, the Tree of Life. And when she touches it, it comes off. It comes away from the wall.
Oops.
And then she puts it back on the wall a little lower, and it's like she hadn't even done anything. It's now part of the wall again. As soon as she's put it on, there's a big crack, a split that appears in the center of this fancy section, and doors start swinging out and open into the cellar. So apparently that's the magic trick, to open up a waygate. It leaves a dull, reflective, shimmering surface. Loyal says, that used to look like a mirror. You'd see your reflection perfectly. Now it's just this dull shimmer. It's part of how the ways are not what they once were.
Now, most likely, Loyal knows this. He doesn't know from experience. He's read about it. Because they've been like this for a while.
Lan leads Mandarb, his horse,
Good horse.
right at the shimmer and then through it. As he goes in, they can't see him anymore. He's gone. Moraine urges them all to follow, and they do. And then Moraine comes in last. As Rand passes in, we see evidence of time passing differently in the ways.
Yeah, as our view moves in, we can look behind and see what's outside the ways. It's not a reflective surface. He can actually see out and notices the people still approaching are moving almost as if through molasses in slow motion.
Yeah. Other than the waygate, as Rand looks around, he can see nothing. It's just dark. Absolute pitch blackness. They've got their lanterns, but even the light from the lanterns doesn't seem to shine as far as light normally would. This dark is oppressive. Once they're all through, Moraine moves the leaf on the inside of the waygate. So not the same leaf she had done before. There's a matching pattern on the inside. And the one on the inside is down low, like she had done with the one outside. She grabs that one, takes it off, moves it back up to the up position, and the waygates close. And they're all inside. Yay! She directs Loyal to lead on. He is the one who will be leading the way because the ways were made for Ogier.
So the Ogier can get about.
Yeah, there are directions throughout the waygates written in Ogier script. And he certainly can read Ogier better than anyone else.
For sure.
Looking down, they see that there is a white line, not painted, but like built in to the ground beneath them. This little stone something that they're standing on. And that's what Loyal follows. He follows the white line. So follow the yellow road.
It's a path
follow
marker.
the white line. And they do. And they proceed and they make it to the first guiding. That's what Loyal says we're going for. We need to get to the first guiding. They notice that this walkway is not smooth.
No, it's got various pits, holes, dings. It once upon a time was pretty
Smooth and
taken care
beautiful.
of, and they're seeing firsthand the deterioration.
Yep. So the white line does lead them to a guiding, kind of a guidepost that's full of Ogier script. Loyal is able to read this, even though on this particular guiding it's really damaged. So the script is not clear anymore, but he can get enough off of it to tell them where to go. This is a good time to explain what they're seeing in the ways.
Yeah, loosely, we can say there's a large series of platforms, bridges, ramps, stair-ish type
Not
things.
stairs.
They're not
No stairs.
actual leveled stairs, but these paths, ramps, and bridges bend, curve, elevate, and change in different ways, and it's not possible.
So they just entered the ways basically on an entrance ramp. If you think of a highway, they just came in from the waygate. There's an entrance ramp, and they have entered it now by coming to an island. And there are islands all over the ways, connected by bridges. So off of every island, you'll find bridges to other islands, and sometimes you'll find exit ramps or entrance ramps. I mean, it's the same thing. Those are the ones that have the white line. But like you were just saying, it's not linear. From this first island, Loyal says, okay, here's the bridge we need to take for where we're headed. Because you can go to lots of different destinations, and which bridge you take, has to do with where you're going. You get to different islands, and again, there's different bridges and different routes you can take. But this particular one they take goes on and then curves around and goes up as well. Again, not stairs, but the slope is going up. When they reach the next island...
Eventually, they reach a point where they are like, we're standing above where we were.
Yeah, they are pretty confident. Didn't we just curve all the way around? I think this island's right atop the other one. This is part of the unsettling part of the ways. There's all this darkness, and then there's these islands and bridges, but nothing is being held up by anything. It's like it's just floating.
But floating in what?
It's almost like it defies gravity.
Ha, 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 ha. Cue episode title.
Yes.
So they travel and they travel and they travel.
They do. They travel and they travel some more. Eventually, Lan says, hey, it's midday, gets off his horse, he gets out some supplies, gives them all a little food.
Now, it's still dark.
The others start to get off, and Moraine's like, nope, we don't have time to actually stop. So once Lan has divvied out some food to everybody, he gets back on the horse.
We're eating on the road, snacking as we go.
That's right. And this is how it just keeps going until finally they're in the middle of a bridge, and Loyal stops. And they see in front of him the bridge ended with a big jagged gap. Like the bridge is gone.
Problem.
The bridge is out. Very disturbing. Very concerning. That's the end of a chapter. Yes. Chapter 45 picks up right there. And it's called What Follows in Shadow.
Because, as we learned, some things do follow in here.
Everyone's rather shaken to see a bridge out. Moraine says very quickly, it's okay, there's more than one way to get to where we're going.
We just have to backtrack and take a detour.
Loyal's like, yeah, but what if the bridge has already gone out behind us too now? Oh, maybe we're trapped forever.
It's fine.
He has a freak out moment.
Loyal, it's fine. Apple Maps will fix everything.
Or Google Maps. Depends who you like.
Yes. I know that you especially are an Apple fan.
Yeah,
so
Google is the devil.
Not if we talk to some people, though.
Anyways, Moraine says, Loyal, look at this actual gap in the bridge. Look at the stone. This is so weathered. This happened a long time ago. Surely the bridge behind us just hasn't by coincidence dropped just now. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. So let's just go back to the island and you find us another route. And he does.
It's kind of
funny.
He's like,
looking at the guiding here. Oh, you were going to say something.
It's kind of funny. Lan's almost basically having a moment of going, Loyal, hold on, don't be hasty. A human to an Ogier. Very funny.
As Loyal looks at the guiding, he's like, this route here will get us to Tar Valon. Much easier than Faldara, where we're headed. They're headed to Faldara in Shannara. And that's the closest way gate to the Blight and where the Eye of the World will be found. And yet, it's like, we can get out of here much faster because this place is scary, sketchy, dangerous. The bridges are falling. Let's go to Tar Valon. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and in real distance time, Camelin to Tar Valon is not even quite half of the way to Faldara. It's almost, but not quite.
But he's like, if we take this bridge, it's just like a couple islands and we're there. Bam! Shall we do that?
And Moraine says, no.
No.
We're going to Faldara.
We must get there.
That's what we agreed on. That's what we have to do.
So they keep on going. He does find another route. More bridges, more islands.
It's a repetitive experience.
Yeah, many hours. It's dull. It's boring. By now, the company, especially the Emmons Field folk, they're like, okay, this is really scary and tense, and now we've done this for so many hours, we are falling asleep on our horses. This is boring.
And eventually Moraine does call a stop. They stop on an island. They're going to stay there for the night, even though it really isn't any different.
Nope, can't see any difference.
But they set up camp, get the horses all tied up a little bit.
Interesting here.
And cook some meal.
Lan pulls out these little gadgets from his horse, little tripod holders for the lanterns. So they basically make a circle around them on the island of all their lanterns, because they've had their lanterns on poles connected to their horses. So everybody has their own light. Now they're going to use those to make a circle, and here's where we will camp, sitting on stone together. And Lan also pulls out another gadget. He has a stove, an oil stove. So he's going to cook a little bit. Mostly, I noticed he made tea. Which I didn't catch that he cooked any food.
But to me, it tells two things. Those horses are not carrying just people. They're carrying two things that are very heavy. Water and oil.
Well,
in good amounts of both.
This is why Loyal needed a horse. The horses are carrying supplies.
It's not about carrying people.
Right. So they all kind of huddle around this little oil campfire that's been created and set themselves up to spend the night now. And Nynaeve asks Moraine, are you going to set some words for us?
And she says, no. We learn the ways were made with the male half. Therefore, they are inexplicably tainted, and using the power in the ways would inevitably taint that power.
Now, Sadar, that women touch, is not tainted.
No, however, reaching to it in this place
Yeah, this place
would
is so
surely
corrupted.
do that.
Oh, it would be nasty. She's like, I have no interest in touching the one power here. While they all sit in this tight circle, Moraine shares something to try to lift their spirits. And this is a nice little thing. She says, I don't believe Tom is dead. Now, she hasn't said anything about this all along, back when Rand shared, the deal with the Fade and Tom attacked and we think he's dead.
She just kind of let it be.
And she's like, nope, I do not believe he is dead. And she has evidence that's actually good evidence. And I noticed this back when I first read it. Mm-hmm. Because she got to Whitebridge after Rand, Matt, and Tom and did her investigating. And she heard word that there'd been a Gleeman. But no one said anything about a Gleeman being killed. A Gleeman is not your run-of-the-mill person. He's something special. If a Gleeman had been killed in Whitebridge, they would have been talking about it. I don't know what happened to him, but I think he's fine.
She also does clarify that Tom's important to the Patter and to the boys. He can't be just written off yet.
And Rand kind of deduces here, are you talking about Min? Did she say something about Tom too?
And let's be real, on a first read, when Moraine doesn't say anything here, that probably is it. On a reread, probably.
There's some significance here, just trust us. After this, they just kind of keep chatting, a little banter. The Emmons Field folk are kind of loosening up now a little bit. I mean, Tom, that's good news. And then finally, okay, let's settle in. And they try to get to sleep. And have you ever tried to sleep on stone?
It's actually not that bad.
You don't think it's that bad?
No, yeah, like, for me, I'll wake up and in the morning not necessarily love it. But as long as I've got the ability to put something under my head, I don't mind too much.
Well, sleeping on stone in the midst of the ways, they're all finding it a little uncomfortable and not easy to relax.
Fair.
Moraine walks around from each one where they're resting and leans down and has some words. And Rand sees this. We get Rand's perspective here. When she gets to Rand, she says, even here, your destiny protects you. Plot armor.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't say plot armor. That's me.
But basically.
Yeah. Not even the Dark One can change the pattern completely. You are safe from him so long as I am close. Your dreams are safe. For a time, yet, they are safe. And then she moves on to Matt, and Rand's like, is all that true? She must think it's true because she's Aes Sedai and
she
said
can't
it,
lie.
And while he's pondering, he falls asleep and he doesn't dream.
And eventually they are woken up.
A few hours later, it's time to go. They break camp, little breakfast as they ride. Midway across a bridge, Lan quietly comments someone is following them, or something. He's not sure what or who.
And so Matt turns around and shoots an arrow.
Yeah. Well, these bowmen from the Two Rivers, he sends an arrow right off behind them and gets ready to do another one. Lan stops him. He's like, there's no telling who it is back there.
We don't even know if it's a bad person.
Of course, who else would be following them in the ways?
I mean, they're in the ways. Are they bad people? No.
Lan mentions whoever it is, or whatever it is, almost caught up with them at the last island, but then skittered back. So clearly is following them.
But non-confrontationally.
Yeah, doesn't want to catch them. Just following. Lan says to Moraine, I could drop back and catch whoever it is.
And Moraine again says, no, there's no time, we go.
Just gotta go. But this does notch the tension up a little bit.
And speeds them up slightly.
Yeah. The tension notches up another level when they get to the next island. And they see the guiding that has some new marks on it.
Different language.
Trolloc runes.
Which, hold up, Trollocs have runes? They have not only language. Their own language,
they have written language,
but they have written language.
Of a sort, yes.
They are technically literate.
But Moraine sees this and has a ding moment. This is how Trollocs got to the Two Rivers. We talked about it earlier, many episodes ago, all these Trollocs getting to the Two Rivers and then getting out to Eridhall and not being seen or detected. All those other nations they would have had to pass through, they weren't passing through them.
There was once a waygate in what was Menetherin.
Right, which was now in the Mountains of Mist. They're using the ways. This is proof right here. That's how they got to the Two Rivers. This is not good.
And Q Lan calling out that they didn't just happen upon this. There was a bit of trial and error and problem.
Yeah, he calls them over to what he's found. And at the foot of a bridge that leads off the island, there are Trollocs, like half buried in the ground, in the stone. Basically, it looks like the ways underneath the Trollocs turned to quicksand and sucked them in and buried them completely.
Now, truthfully, this is not a completely ridiculous phenomenon. Large enough earthquakes do this to ground. Turn it almost into a liquid as it churns and swallows things up, whole buildings even.
But they're all like, what if that happens to us?
Yeah, that's something that is not a time, like the bridge falling apart. That's a sudden thing.
Loyal notes this path they were headed off on, where this happened, leads to Tarvalon.
What? Where does it lead?
Tarvalon.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that.
Let me say it more clearly. Tarvalon.
Tarvalon. Got it.
What place? What?
Tarvalon.
This would have taken them to that place we just talked about. Moraine infers here, we don't need to worry about this happening to us. I believe this was a trap built into the ways in case Shadow Spawn ever found their way in. So this isn't going to happen to us. We're here rightly. We're with Loyal and Ogier. We'll be fine.
And yet it's still an added stress,
Yes,
more
it
tension.
is.
They continue onwards, bridge after bridge. They get to midday.
Another lunch as they ride.
And after a while, Rand thinks he hears something.
Yeah, he's like, sounds kind of like wind out there. Wow, that's nice. It's been so dead quiet the whole way. I'm really looking forward to wind again. And then he speaks up, Loyal, didn't you say there isn't any wind in the ways?
Well, that's not true. There's mostly no wind.
Yeah, Loyal's like,
the black wind.
Machin Shin or Machin Shin, whoever you believe. The light illumine and protect us. Loyal starts to have another freak out moment.
But at that point, it's a shit run.
When asked, Loyal says he believes they have only 2 more bridges to their exit.
Woo.
Moraine says, go now! So Loyal gets them to the next island, checks the guiding, says, that one. Moraine just goes, and they all follow. They're galloping now because the wind is getting louder and louder and louder.
And they get to the Waygate.
They get to the gate, and Moraine reaches out and then pulls back. The leaf's gone.
Shit.
There's no way to open this Waygate.
That's not good.
They are trapped. Nothing for it. Moraine turns at the gate with her 1 power. She's gonna blast it. Do you remember in Star Wars Episode 1?
Phantom Menace?
Yes. Where
the blast doors and
they
Qui-Gon?
need to work their way through, and Qui-Gon's gonna, lightsaber through it. And
he kind of has that force moment feeling and just puts it in and starts to melt the door
with it. But it wasn't
with
like instant. It took some time. This is what Moraine's experiencing. She's using the 1 power in a way to basically cut through the Waygate in some way. But it's not instantaneous. And they're all sitting there going, go faster, go faster, go faster, because the wind is getting louder and louder. It's coming for them. She finally finishes what she's doing, but the Waygate's still there. She's just put this big cut through it now. Lan, on Mandarb, spurs the horse and they jump at the Waygate. And this is a war horse. And war horses are trained, interestingly,
for a lot of crazy stuff.
Yes, including using their own bodies to attack other horses.
They bite, they stomp, they smash.
They body slam. So what he does, he jumps right at the Waygate, and just before it hits, the horse tucks his head and hits it with his shoulder. And their weight knocks the Waygate open. Like the parts Moraine had cut just drop out. It's not the door swung open. It's the chunk of rock falls out. And Lan and Mandarb are out.
No, I feel like it is a cracked, pushed open, like she cuts along the seam. It's not missing bits of wall.
No, it is missing now. This one I'm completely positive of. And I'll explain why in a moment.
All right, we'll get back.
Okay. They're out. She says to everyone else, out, 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 out. So they all follow Lan. Moraine comes last because while they're all trying to get out, she's turned the other direction and she's blasting with 1 power stuff back at the wind, which has gotten so loud it's basically screaming in their ears.
And it begins to actually scream in their ears?
Yes. Now this flame she's shooting out with the 1 power doesn't look like what they've seen her use before. A brilliant white. No, this is like a sickly yellow flame with black flecks through it. So I think this is the corruption that was talked about.
Burning dirty.
Yeah. But she's using it anyways. She's blasting at whatever this is to keep it away, keep it back at least, so they have time to get out. And when she then follows them out, she steps out backwards, bringing her horse, but she's still basically keeping an eye on Makin Shin behind her. And when she does get out, then the way gate turns completely black. And they hear the wind. They hear this. Now, whether they hear it in their ears or hear it in their minds, it doesn't matter. It's unclear. But it was like nasty, and I felt it was worthy to repeat here. You want to read what they hear?
Flesh so fine to tear, to gash the skin. Skin to strip, to plate, so nice to plate the strips, so nice, so red. The drops that fall, blood so red, so sweet, sweet screams, pretty screams. Singing screams, scream your song, sing your screams.
Oh, delightful.
It's kind of poetic.
Ugh. Then the blackness lessens, the whispers fade away, and the way gate turns back into its murky shimmer. The black wind is gone,
I feel
and
like
they have
Makin
survived.
Shin could be a pretty good slam poet.
Not a beatnik poet, a slam poet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about slamming into people.
That's all over. Nynaeve's like, what was that? And this is where Loyal points out, it's Makin Shin. And Moraine is relieved that she was right about something, that it couldn't leave the ways, as evidenced.
But that doesn't really answer Nynaeve's question.
Yeah, she said, what is it? Not who is it,
And
what?
Ultimately, the end of the story is nobody knows.
Nope. There's lots of theories, but nobody knows for sure what Makin Shin is, where it came from, or anything. It is.
And so, with nothing else to do, they move onwards.
That's right. They have a new mission.
And we move onwards to chapter
continue.
46.
Yes. And as the chapter ended, they looked up and they saw the towers in the distance. That's Faldara, where they were headed. So 46, they're headed that way. It's, 2-3 miles off in the distance, but they can see it. And we learned that now they're in Shinar, and this is part of the borderlands, as in the lands closest to the Blight. It's rather barren, it's cold. They don't have the benefit of the map if they're listening to us. This is the far northern part of the map.
And specifically the northeastern section.
Which means they're in the northern hemisphere of their planet. North is not always cold like this, Depends on what planet you're on.
No, it doesn't depend on what planet you're on. It depends on what
hemisphere
part
of the planet
you're
yeah,
on.
That's why I said they're in the northern hemisphere, because north is cold.
I suppose it would also depend, because the magnetic north might be
That's
different
also
than
true.
what north
Wow, we're getting
is for
sciencey
temperature
weird
and
here. Anyways, it's barren, it's cold, winter doesn't seem to have come, but Lan says, no, guys, this is a fine spring day here in the Borderlands.
This is great.
And then he says, but don't worry, you want to be warm? Just wait till we get to the Blight.
It may be more north, but it'll be warm.
We don't know what that means yet, but we're going to find out. As they cross the few miles to Faldara, they pass farms, but they all seem to be abandoned. There's no one. Something is kind of wrong, and it's spooky.
It's weird.
Rand speaks up one more time here now to Egwene and Nynaeve and tries to get them to maybe stay in Faldara when they go to the Eye of the World.
Yeah,
or maybe head back to Tar Valon.
That's not happening.
Yeah, and he says the same to Loyal. It's like, you don't have to come all the way to the Eye of the World, He's constantly trying to protect other people.
That's still not happening.
Yeah. Loyal actually says, I'm interested in meeting the Green Man now that we're this far. Elder Haman, he's mentioned before. We have not mentioned him before, but that's the elder in his steading. Elder Haman has met the Green Man, and my father's met the Green Man, and many of the other elders have met the Green Man. I'm looking forward to meeting him. And Perrin is surprised to hear they've all met the Green Man.
Apparently, Ogier do that.
Well, the stories all tell about if you search for the Green Man and you find him, you can only meet him once, but many people don't find him at all. But all these Ogier have found him?
Well, Loyal says it's true, you can only find him once, but the Green Man doesn't avoid Ogier. It's humans that aren't great. Humans are the ones who, chop down trees and use them for destruction.
Ogier. Finally, they reach Faldara. It's not nearly so large as Camelin.
No, but the wall is really high.
Oh, it's huge. Clearly, this is built to be a defensible place.
And it's notably simple.
I bet they don't have a garden wall. like back in Camelin. You can just climb.
No, theirs are probably more effective, or at least have defensible stations built into it.
And yet, I bet the wall can be climbed.
Probably. At least with siege equipment.
Or not.
There's a reason why siege equipment is a thing for scaling walls.
Lan and Moraine lower their hoods at this point as they're approaching it, and they point out it's the law in Shannara that no one may hide their face inside the town's walls. Any town's walls. And that's so that half-men can't hide.
Which tells us something very telling about the Borderlands here. And that's,
they believe in half-men.
Not only do they believe it, but they are aware of it as a actual common enough thing to be worried about.
Yes. The gates are open and they get to ride right in. There are guards there, but no one moves to stop them. In fact, they seem happy to see them.
They recognize some.
They do. They start crying out, Daishan! Daishan! As they see Lan.
Weird.
Yeah. And one even asks, will the golden crane fly again? What is that about?
I'm not sure I really can say without spoilers. I'd love to talk about it. I can't.
Save it for now, because we're going to get just a little farther in the chapter and all will be revealed. Some others yell out, glory to the builders!
That one's for Loyal.
Yeah, and he's like, oh.
They remember. Everyone else thought I was a Trolloc, but they remember me.
Yeah. Once inside, they find where all the people from the abandoned farms have gone. This place is packed with people, elbow to elbow. The people of Shannara, now this is just a side comment. When I've read this and then listened to the audiobook as well, they remind me of an Asian culture.
I will agree in a singular case, but in a lot of things, disagree.
I mean, a lot of the way they act, they talk, their military perspective seems very Asian. Maybe Japanese, maybe Chinese, I'm not sure. But that's what I've always pictured with Shannara.
The singular place where I agree is the way that their code of honor seems to dictate.
Totally.
And that being possibly the most important aspect. And there is a rather Confucian thought of loyalty to the state, even over your own family.
If you ever listen to the audiobook, it'll just scream feudal Japan. That really drove it home for me.
But that's, again, like you like to point out with pronunciations, their interpretation of the books.
But, Kate Redding and Michael Kramer, their interpretation.
It's great.
It's gospel.
But no, it's not.
Okay, all right. They eventually arrive at a fortress in the middle of the town, crossing a drawbridge and pulling into a courtyard where grooms run out, take care of their horses, and they are met by Ingtar, an officer of this place. He shares that he's sent word on to Lord Agomar. Agomar is the Lord of Faldara.
We're getting lots of names here.
Yeah. Ingtar is thrilled to see them, particularly Lan and Moraine. They're both clearly known here.
Apparently, Lord Agomar in the city of Faldara has sent for aid because there's a massive Trolloc army coming.
Yes. Up in the north, they've had scouts up there. They've seen them. There's a huge, massive army that's marching south and heading for a place through the mountains that are north of them called Tarwin's Gap. The Faldaran troops are getting ready to march out to Tarwin's Gap to stop the Trollocs. At least that's the plan. Ingtar is sure you've come because of that.
And
it's
so
great to have you here.
They're taken to Lord Agomar.
Yes.
Who is also happy to see them.
He also thinks they're here, just in time to help. He mentions that if Daishan will call, 1,000 men will come to march with him.
Of course, surely. But Lan's not about that.
Yeah. He says, the 7 towers are broken, and Malkir is dead. The few of her people left, scattered across the face of the earth. I am a warder, Agomar, sworn to the flame of Tar-Valon, and I am bound into the blight.
I'm not worried about any of my differences of opinion on how we say things there. It's fine.
Basically, there's something significant about Lan that Agomar is like, if you ride with us and call out for help, there'll be a ton of people who will come because of you. And he's like, no,
Lan's not about that life.
I'm not doing that.
He's got an oath and a duty.
Yes. The conversation goes on to share some details. The Trollocs had been raiding all of the borderlands, Kandor, Arafel, Saldaia, and Shannara throughout the winter, far worse than normal. And now there's this great mass about to ride into Shannara, But because of all these attacks all through the winter, the rest of the borderlands that I just mentioned are sure there's probably attacks coming at them too, so they have not sent anyone to help.
Weird side note here, and it is a pronunciation one.
Yeah.
I always think Shinar, and it's a small thing, but it's purely a thought in my brain of I want to separate it from Shannara.
I actually looked up the pronunciation of this one.
So you are actually correct.
Shanar.
It just...
And the shy, you said, that's correct, but the emphasis is on the second syllable. So, Shanar.
That makes me start to go to a different series, and I'm like,
And speaking of, the Chronicles of Shannara is an excellent series that some people bash, but falsely. I enjoy Terry Brooks.
You're currently reading the final book.
I am. I'm about to finish it all, and I tweeted about it, and he liked my tweet. So he's now one of my even better favorite authors. Thank you, Terry Brooks. Like he will have listened to this podcast.
But back to the Wheel of Time.
They are not expecting any help from the rest of the Borderlands.
No, they're expecting to be outnumbered.
Yeah, they're going to ride to Tarwin's Gap because it is their duty to stop the Trollocs, but their scouts say they're going to be outnumbered 10-1.
So truthfully, they will go to do their duty and die.
Yes. But if Lan stood with them, other nations would also send people. So this could turn the tide.
They could send
Come on,
word
Lan!
that Daishan is raising the call and maybe they would die, but it would get stopped before the rest of the world was flooded.
Now, Lan has already told him that's not happening. But he clearly is having a hard time hearing this information. He's holding a silver goblet of wine. Even though his face doesn't change at all, his hand squeezes so hard that he crushes the silver goblet and the wine goes everywhere. And a servant jumps right up, cleans his hand, gives him another goblet of wine. Man, good servants, hard to find, man. But they got him there.
Apparently.
But he says, he and Moraine Sedai must leave in the morning for the Blight.
And so Agomar accepts that.
Yep. Honestly, they've said, yes, you need to go stop the Trollocs, that's true, but the true battle is going to take place in the Blight at the Eye of the World. This is more important. So, if it's so important to get there, Agomar is saying, well, let me send you with troops to make sure you can get there.
And Moraine goes, no. We have to find the Eye of the World. We have to find the Green Man. We can't do it with a massive force. We can't be stopped. We got to stealth in and practically luck. The Green Man has to want to see us, and he doesn't like people.
Moraine knows where to go to find the Green Man. She knows she's been there before, and everybody's like, what?
That's a problem.
Yeah, you can't find the Green Man more than once. We've already heard this multiple times.
But Moraine pulls a card that is a little bit of a trump card, but it's also, in my opinion, her saying, but the plot demands it.
Yes. It's like need matters. Need is the key. And the reason they are searching for the Green Man is more important than anything.
Moraine suffers a little bit from main character syndrome, where she thinks she is the main character.
Apparently
and acts
she
like
is,
it, but she kind of is.
Amazon has cast the biggest American star of the series
it's
in this
fair.
character.
She is kind of,
Yeah.
but she knows it.
The matter is settled. Agomar is conceding to what their plan is. So, well, let me be host. And he puts out a call for some food and drink, and he plays host. And it comes out as they just hang out a little bit this evening now that he knows about the two rivers. Specifically because he has tabak from the two rivers, and he gets them out and shares it. Yeah, it's the best tabak around. And they do a little smoking, those
Tabak
who do.
or tabac?
Tabak.
Really?
I looked it up.
Weird.
Yeah.
Must be one of those American pronunciation things.
Matt mentions, as they're chit-chatting, that there's a song in the Two Rivers called Coming Home from Tarwin's Gap. Now, that's a little touchy subject, because, again, they're going to go to Tarwin's Gap and die tomorrow. But Agomar is a good host. He smooths it over and says, yeah, no surprise you've heard that. Because people have come from the south to help us fight off the enemy from the Blight for years and years and years. And the boys look at each other, and one of them mouths, Manetheren.
I think it's important to note Matt's the one who mouths that.
Got those ties to the old ways, you know.
A little bit more in tune.
Perhaps. Loyal comments he'd hoped to see the Ogier Grove that had been planted here. And Agomar points out, you remember those Trolloc Wars? Yeah, they tore everything down here. And what you see now is not the city the Ogier had built. This was rebuilt by men.
It is simple. It is
purposeful.
It is utilitarian.
Yes. But the Grove, nah, we couldn't replace that at all.
They talk for a while.
And then Ingtar shows up again.
Woo!
And he's got news. A stranger, a madman, had tried to get into Faldara. He'd gone to the south gate. They asked him some questions, and he ran away. But then they captured him climbing the walls.
No. Read what you have written there. They captured him trying to climb the walls. He was not successful.
Well, he was trying.
He probably got, like, partway up and fell. Partway up, fell.
Or partway up and they saw him because they're more attentive to walls.
Yeah, it's not like it was an easy process. He just did it. No.
Anyways, they've got this guy who's trying to get in. And this is sketch. So I want you to know about this, Lord Agomar. And Agomar says, bring the man here. And points out that, when there's things like this, I need to be attentive because, just recently we actually had 5 of our own people trying to damage a horse gate just 2 days ago, which if they'd succeeded would have allowed Trollocs into Faldara. Now, I couldn't question them because the village people found them first and tore them to pieces, but clearly we had dark friends right here. Shanarans who are dark friends, and if that can happen, anything is suspect.
Because apparently these Shanarans are dedicated.
Oh man, they live their lives to fight against the Blight, so yeah, freaky. So the madman is dragged in. He's disgusting, both in appearance and smell.
But they do recognize him.
They do. I mean, they hear him, and he's got an accent, and then he has a different accent. One accent is from Lugard, one of the villages of the south. Another is a very haughty and arrogant accent. The Lugard accent really strikes home, because that's the peddler. But
not only is it the peddler from back
in from Emmons Field.
But Rand also recognizes this
Wait a second,
ratty guy. This is the beggar who was chasing me in Caelin, too.
Oh, man. And he had seen Padan Fain, remember, back at Barrelon, too. This guy, wow, he's followed them here now? What the heck?
He's an absolute mess of things.
He's a mewling, whining individual who says things like, he made me do it. I didn't want to. I had to. He made me his hound to hunt and follow with never a bit of rest. And then he flips.
An arrogant, confident, almost sleek and oily in his voice as he's claiming to be an agent of the Dark One.
No, not of. Against
the Dark One. Sorry, my mistake.
I have come to assist you, Lord Agomar. I can guide and advise you to be superior and win against the Dark One's forces.
And this is more than Agomar can handle, or really has time to.
He's like, this beggar creep kind of thinks highly of himself, doesn't he?
It's weird.
Moraine and Lan take him to another room.
They know if Fane's here, it has to be tied to us in some way.
Right. We need to figure this out. Okay, this moves us to our last chapter. Chapter 47, More Tales of the Wheel.
More of them.
Yeah, the rest of the group, including Lord Agomar, are left waiting while Fane is being questioned. And eventually, the conversation begins again. Lord Agomar, Egwene, and Nynaeve talking. The boys are just all amped up, going, come on. Come back and tell us what's going on.
But now that Moraine and Lan are no longer in the room, we get a little bit of a lore dump on Lan.
We get a massive lore dump.
I mean, again, I see bullet points here for notes, but it's bullet points that go on and on. And
yes.
There's so much here.
Let's just share what we hear here.
Go for it.
Lan is well known in the Borderlands because his parents were the last king and queen of Malkir when it fell to the expansion of the Blight. His full name and title, should he ever choose to use it, and he does not at this point, is Alan Mandragoran. Gotta say that right.
Like
Alan Mandragoran, Lord of the Seven Towers, Lord of the Lakes, crownless king of the Malkiri. Wow.
What a name.
Shannara did not used to be truly a borderland, nor was Arafel, its neighbor to the west, because Malkir was north of both of them. That was the borderland.
But something went terribly wrong.
Yes. Lan had an uncle, Lane. Lane. When you're making up like some, 2,000
Oh no,
plus
trust me, I'm
characters.
aware. I'm not doing 2,000 some, and I still have some weird close similarities in my characters.
So Lane Mandragoran, brother to the king, he led soldiers, 5,000 soldiers, into the Blight
beyond it to the
Headed
blasted
to
lands.
the blasted lands, perhaps Sheol itself. And he did this because his wife dared him to, challenged him.
They were playing Truth or Dare, and she was just like, hey, yo, I dare you to go take a bunch of soldiers into the Blight.
Basically, she was irritated and upset that Lane's brother was chosen as king. They were brothers, thick and thin, and loved each other and were venerated by the Malkiri, the people of Malkir. But I think Lane married badly.
Yeah, she was ambitious and greedy in her own pride.
So she goaded him enough that fine woman, he took his troops and went up there to strike out at the Dark One, and
None of them
almost
came back.
all killed.
Almost none of them came back.
Right.
Possibly none.
The king grieves at this, but Lane's wife, she blames the king for his death, saying if you had been brave enough to go with him, you guys could have actually defeated the Dark One, and all of this would have been better.
She's
Yeah.
She's
You can
dumb.
say the word.
She's dumb.
Dumb? That's what you're
No,
going to say?
I was just going, she's a dumbass.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm going.
Well, at this point, she conspires with another of the great lords of the realm, someone known as Cowan Fairheart, who, if you've got the king and you've got Lane, then Cowan is the third most
Prominent.
venerated, prominent lords of the land. But she conspires with him to seize the throne away from the king so that her son, Isam, will become king.
Is that how that's said?
It might be Isam.
I think Isam.
It starts with an I, but it can be Isam, it can be Isam. I think you're right. I think it's Isam. But I don't know. I forget. Anyways, it's just a boy.
He a boy.
This is a power grab now. So conspiring with him, they have troops that they control that are drawn back from the border.
But we have a problem. Fairheart, this
What a name. Fairheart.
supposed pawn of this woman, kind of partnering to try and do this, was also actually a dark friend.
Yep. So as he agrees to help her and pull the troops back so we can take over the capital, Trollocs come pouring past the border,
Where
which
they
is now
should have
unprotected. Not cool.
And maybe with all this new stuff, the king and his brother, they could have really rallied the Malkiri and really led
Fought
a
off
huge
the
push to
Trollocs,
fight
yeah.
him off. But Lane's dead. 5,000 men are dead. Morale is at an all-time low.
There's no chance. Lane's wife actually figures this out too. Not that Cowan was a dark friend, but that we're doomed.
And
so
she
she
gets
takes
out of
off
there.
with her son, and the Trollocs overcome them.
And as far as we know, the two of them are never heard from again.
That's correct. Cowan Fairheart, he's captured by Jane Charon.
Who is also called Jane Farstrider, and I believe we have heard this name already before.
That's right.
It's one of the 5 books
The
that
Travels of Jane Farstrider.
one of the 5 books that Rand and his
Dad Tam
owned.
had back at the cabin. So he's a famous adventurer, but he was also a Malkiri. And so he's the one that captures Cowan Fairheart, and he's brought back to the 7 Towers in chains. The great lords are like, off with his head! But the king is, no, this is a hero of our people, so I will offer him single combat. The king
fair
against
trial.
him. Yep. And the king slays him in combat.
So it worked out right.
It works out. But again, at this point, there's no time.
Malkir is still
is
doomed.
lost. The king and queen, they have their infant son, Lan, brought to them. They place the sword of Malkiri in his hands. The
A
sword he still uses. Yep. And they anoint him Daishan. We've seen that title. We heard that. Which means a diademed battle lord. They consecrate him as the next king of the Malkiri. And in his name, they swear the ancient oath of Malkiri kings and queens. Let's read this together. To stand against the shadow so long as iron is hard and stone abides. To defend the Malkiri while
with
one drop of blood remains. To avenge what cannot be defended. And they place him in the care of 20 of the king's bodyguard, the best warriors
Best
in
of the
land,
best.
and said, take him to Fal Moran, the capital of Shinar. That sword they send with him, that's not just any old sword.
No, it's a badass sword.
We learn here that sword is actually an Aes Sedai created sword, going all the way back to the War of Power, at the end of the Age of Legends. So this is a special sword.
It has cool properties that we'll cover later.
So with their son safely sent away, the king and queen lead those who are left to face fades in the Trollocs, and they all die in battle.
One last charge, and, well, that's all she wrote there.
Yep. And the 20 bodyguard, they do get Lan safely to Fal Maran. Only 5 of them are left by the time they get there.
Of 20, 15 die along the way.
Yeah, and the 5 who are left are all wounded.
But Lan's okay.
Lan is safe. He's raised there in Shinar.
But he's raised with Malkieri customs from the 5 remaining warriors.
Yep. He is absolutely raised as a warrior of renown. He knows how to battle against the Blight and the Dark One, but he also is committed that this battle now is his own. He will not raise the golden crane of Malkier. He will not bring others with him to death.
Though he is already a crowned and anointed king of a nation that no longer exists.
Yes. And there are some Malkieri around in the world, in the other borderlands. They're around, and he's their king, but he chooses not to be king. Agomar ends this whole tale saying, so you guys are headed to the Blight. You're with the right guy. There's no one better to lead you into the Blight than Lan.
Which, to be fair, they all basically already knew, but now they have more empirical evidence.
Yes.
And so that's all said and done. Moiraine and Lan return, and, well, we learn some new things and get another info dump, but this time about Fane.
Yeah. Moiraine confirms, yeah, he's mad, or close to it. She also says he is the darkest, most denigrated soul she has ever encountered.
Which I want to clarify here. She's including what she just had to deal with Matt.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
He's worse than that.
He's a dark friend, but he's worse than a dark friend. I mean, it's just, He's been a dark friend for over 40 years.
Long time.
And he has done horrors upon horrors.
Like killing babies or something. I don't know.
Yeah. She got all
Kicked
sorts of gunk out of him. But she also learns that he's the one that brought the Trollocs to Emond's Field.
Great.
Yeah. 3 years ago, he was summoned to Shaiol Ghul, where he was brought before a man with eyes of fire, naming himself Baalzamon. And the boys
Sound
all
familiar?
twitch. Yeah. At Shaiol Ghul,
Shaiol Ghul.
They did things to him that almost killed him. But in the end, what it did is it turned him into a hound. He was given the task to hunt the region in which he served as a peddler, sniffing around, seeing what he could learn. He was promised great riches, power, and rewards for this service. And the Emond's Field folk, they remember that year. Yeah, he kind of stuck around like a whole extra week.
It was weird.
We didn't know why.
We liked it, but it was weird.
Just sniffing around, yeah. After that season, he was brought back to Shaiol Ghul, and his mind was distilled. We don't know exactly what that means.
It's usually a good thing in my thought process, but I guess I haven't seen it in mines too much.
The result is that his sensitivity for what he was supposed to hunt for was heightened. And he came back doing his rounds, and when he got to Emond's Field, he was able to tell Matt, Rand, or Perrin. One of them was who the Master sought. Finally, in year 3, which was this year, he was supposed to mark the 3 boys when he arrived in Emond's Field, and then meet a half-man with Trollocs who would do the rest. And we've, seen the result. Winter Night and all that mess. Now, when the Myrddraal failed to capture them, he took Fane with him to follow them. And when they ditched the Myrddraal and Trollocs at Terran Ferry, the Shadow Spawn, they went back to the Waygate in the Mountains of Mist, and they cut Fane free. He says to Moiraine that he rejected the Dark One then.
But Moiraine says that's a load of bullshit.
Yeah. Instead, what he did then, he got across the river, and he kept following them on his own. But before too long, another Myrddraal found him, even before Baralon, and used him again to follow these boys. And that gets them all the way to Shadar Logoth, and he reveals, you guys went in there, and the Shadow Spawn didn't want to go in, but Baalzamon appeared again and forced them into the city. And Mashadar killed them all.
But
and
not
I
Fane.
was free! I was free! But
I could be good and great things. And
I was committed to then just go and hide and never deal with the dark again. And I found a compulsion in me to follow the boys. So bad, it had grown so strong, it wouldn't let me rest. I would follow all day until I collapsed from exhaustion. And as soon as I had energy back, I was up again and had to follow.
No food, no sleep, just go, go, go.
And that same compulsion got him to Caemlyn, and even drove him to follow them through the ways.
And in the ways, the black wind, which almost got our companions, it caught him.
It caught Fane, absolutely. But, Fane says he could understand the wind.
It made sense.
Some of the voices greeted him as, "You're like us."
And some were afraid of him.
And the wind very quickly ran away from Fane. Okay, what the heck?
This thing that, as we've seen, is to date probably the most terrifying thing to all of the characters collectively, and it ran away from Fane.
Lord Agelmar now has a deepened understanding of the issues that Moraine and the company are facing.
And he really wants to send guards with them.
Yeah, come on, let me send soldiers. This is important. I gotta send soldiers with you. And she's like, nope.
I've got what I need.
In fact, she says, this group is all I need. These untrained boys, they're the ones that will actually be fighting the battle at the Eye.
Untrained boys go, what?
Agelmar goes, these boys, they're gonna battle.
The world's doomed.
Are they channelers? He doesn't say it, but he
that's
implies, he's like, did you actually bring men who can use the one power with you? She's like, no. They are... Now, she doesn't say no.
She says
she diverts
they
it
are
and says they are
Taviran.
Taviran. The pattern is what guides them, and the pattern will see them through to victory.
I get the sense Agelmar is, sure, a believer in the pattern, but also a believer in using a sword to ensure the pattern actually goes your way.
All right, it's time to sleep. We have to leave early.
Goodness.
Boom. And that's the end of the chapter and also the end of our episode.
It's been a little bit of a long one, but we got through the chapters this time.
Yes, we did. And the action is ramping up. Wait till you hear the next 4 chapters, man. Only 4, but woo! They are the most significant so far, chapters 48 through 51. It's going to be amazing. So I do want to remind our fans that is what will come out a week from now, but...
It's not our next episode.
That's right, our midweek special coming up as we cover the first magic system, the one from the Wheel of Time, and it will include more of the magic system that we've revealed so far in the book series, so there will be slight spoilers to it, but I don't think anything that's going to ruin anything. So if you're a regular listener to the book series part, feel free to join us for the midweek special. I think you'll be okay.
And if you've read the series before, you already know everything, and
listen to see what we get wrong.
Yeah, you probably can tune in and tell us through a variety of ways the things that you think we missed, covered incorrectly, or even just differences in opinions and how we rate it.
Best of all, they could choose to become patrons of our podcast. Join us on Patreon. Our Patreon page is included in the show notes, and if you've done that, you can be with us during the live recording of this Magic series midweek special and interact right there and then. We guarantee your comments will end up showing up on the podcast. Other ways that you can be connecting to us, of course, we want to note the usual. There's our email, fantasyfortheages@gmail.com. Anything you want to say to us, send it that way. We'd love to hear from fans instead of just some lady who wants to give us money to build orphanages. Social media,
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or come chat with us on Discord.
Our Discord is a fantastic way to get to connect with us and other fantasy fiction listeners and readers. So the invite, I don't know where that word came from. The invite link for Discord is included in the show notes. That's all I have then today.
All I've got.
All right. We'll talk to you next time.